You're walking through a marketplace. It's somewhere in the ancient world, Rome, maybe, or a dusty town on its edge. The sun is hot, the air smells like bread and animals and smoke. And all around you, people are dying in ways you have never even imagined. Not in battle, not from old age. From things so strange, so specific, so wildly unlucky, that if I described them to you today, you'd assume I was making them up. But I'm not. Every one of these is real. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you the single rarest way a human being died in the ancient world, a death so bizarre that it has its own place in history. But to get there, we have to climb, because here's the thing nobody tells you about the ancient world. Dying was easy. Dying normally was the hard part. Most people went out the predictable ways: disease, hunger, war, childbirth, a wound gone bad. Think about that for a second. The boring deaths were the lucky ones. They were quick, common, understood. But underneath those everyday endings, the ancient world was hiding a collection of exits so strange they almost defy belief. So let's count them down, from the merely unlucky to the truly impossible. Let's start near the bottom. The deaths that were rare, but at least made sense. Picture a Roman bathhouse. Warm water, steam, the sound of voices echoing off stone. It sounds peaceful. It wasn't. The Romans loved their baths, but those baths were also a perfect trap. The water was rarely changed. The same pools held the sick and the healthy together, hour after hour, day after day. And so people would walk in to relax and walk out carrying something that would quietly kill them weeks later. Here's the unsettling part. They thought the bath was healing them. They had no idea the warm, soothing water was the very thing handing them a death sentence. The thing that felt the safest was the thing that got them. Keep that idea in your head, because it's going to come back. Now climb a little higher, because at least the bath made sense. The next one doesn't. In the ancient world, your own decorations could kill you. The wealthy loved the color of certain paints, certain cups, certain face powders, bright, beautiful, expensive. And many of those beautiful things were made from materials we now know are slow poisons. People literally painted death onto their own walls and rubbed it onto their own skin to look more attractive. The richer you were, the more of it you surrounded yourself with. So the very symbols of a good life, the fine cup, the painted room, the perfect pale complexion, were quietly ending the lives of the people who could afford them. The poor, who couldn't, were sometimes safer. Let that sink in. In the ancient world, luxury itself could be lethal. But that's still not rare enough, because those deaths, strange as they are, happen to a lot of people. The further up we climb, the fewer and fewer people share each fate. So let's keep going. Here's where it gets genuinely strange. There are deaths recorded from the ancient world that happened to, as far as we know, almost no one else. Single, freak endings. The kind that only line up once in 1,000 years. There's the story of a man said to have died laughing. Not as an expression literally. The story goes that he saw something so absurd, laughed so hard, and so completely lost control of his own body, that he simply never stopped, and it killed him. Think about that for a second. In a world full of war and plague and famine, here's a person whose recorded cause of death is joy taken too far. You could spend your whole life trying to die that way and never manage it. He did it by accident. And there's another, a thinker, a man of logic, who supposedly died of pure frustration. The tale says he was confronted with a simple puzzle he could not solve, became so consumed by the failure of his own mind to crack it, that the stress alone ended him. A man undone, not by a sword, not by a sickness, but by a problem he couldn't put down. But wait, because if you think those are strange, the next category is going to make them look ordinary. Because so far, every death we've talked about came from inside a person's own life. Their bath, their wealth, their emotions. The rarest deaths of all came from the sky, from the ground, from the universe itself reaching down and picking one specific human being out of all of history. Imagine standing in a field, open sky above you, nothing around for miles, and out of that enormous, empty sky, something falls, and it hits you, not near you, you. The odds of a person in the ancient world being struck by something falling from space, in an empty world with almost no people in it, are so small the human mind can barely hold them. And yet, across thousands of years, the math says it had to happen to someone. Somewhere, at some point, one ancient human became the single most astronomically unlucky person who had ever lived, ended by the one thing no spear, no wall, no prayer could ever protect against. They never saw it coming. They couldn't have. There was nothing to see until it was already over. And here's the part that should give you chills. That person has no name, no record, no grave we can find. The rarest death in human history happened to someone so ordinary that history forgot them completely. They were just standing there, living a normal day, and the universe chose them. So, which one was it? Which of all these was truly the rarest way to die in the ancient world? Here's the twist nobody expects. It wasn't the falling sky. It wasn't the laughter. It wasn't the poison or the bath. Because all of those, as rare as they were still accidents, random, blind, impersonal. The rarest death of all was something else entirely. It was the death that required other people to choose it for you. In parts of the ancient world, there were punishments designed not just to kill, but to be so specific, so elaborate, so rare, that they were almost never actually carried out. Reserved for the most extraordinary crimes, methods so unusual that across an entire civilization, only a handful of human beings ever experienced them. These weren't common executions. They were almost theatrical in their rarity, a death so exceptional that to receive it, you had to be a once-in-a-generation figure, remembered precisely because of how strangely you died. And that's what makes it the rarest of all. The falling object from space was rare by chance bad luck on a cosmic scale. But this was rare by design. A death so uncommon that the ancient world built it specifically to almost never be used. To die that way, you couldn't just be unlucky. You had to be chosen, condemned, and remembered all at once. The universe can strike anyone. But to die the rarest death of all, the entire society around you had to decide you were the one. So let's go back to that marketplace. The sun, the bread, the smoke, the ordinary people walking past you. Every single one of them carried a different ending inside them. Most would go the common ways, the disease, the hunger, the wound. A few would go the strange ways, the bath, the poison, the luck, run impossibly thin. And one, maybe just one in all of history, would go the rarest way of all, not by accident, not by the sky, but by the deliberate choice of everyone around them. It makes you realize something uncomfortable about being alive at all. You think of death as one thing, one door. But the ancient world had 1,000 doors, and most of them were strange, and a few of them were so rare that only one person ever walked through. The truth is, the odds of dying in any particular way have always been almost zero, which means every single person who ever lived walked a path between 1,000 bizarre endings, and the one they finally met was, in its own way, the rarest thing about them. You're going to walk out of wherever you are right now and step back into a world that feels safe, predictable. But the ancient ones felt that too, right up until the bath, or the cup, or the empty sky reminded them that the rarest way to die is always the one nobody sees coming. It took the entire weight of history to make these deaths so rare, and somewhere out there, forgotten, are the people who proved they were possible.